Psychic doesn't see the future. You create the future, my friends. Don't let anyone ever take that free will from you and tell you what is certain. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. Do psychics actually see the future? Is that a thing? I know it's a huge thing in Hollywood. It's a huge thing in popular culture. You know, you think you go to see a psychic because the psychic sees the future. And it's actually a huge lie. It's a lie you have been told. A psychic has the ability to tap into your auric field. So as a psychic or an intuitive, both words mean the same thing. You're tapping into the energy of a person or a thing. So kind of going back a little bit, we are energetic beings having this human experience. There's an energy that animates your body, and it's a bigger field than your body. So you actually have this energetic field that surrounds you. And that energetic field is the storehouse of all your emotions, your experiences. Anyone you have ever come into contact with is held in that energetic field. Interesting enough, we think that that actually lives in the brain, and we know that consciousness transcends the body. So it can't be, because the brain is not actually the storehouse of all those things that's in the energetic field. And we also know that when we have a brain injury, we can lose memories, we can lose things, cognitive abilities that we no longer have, on memories. We know with dementia, you lose those memories as well. But then even in dementia, there can be moments of lucidity where all of a sudden everything is back, right? And we know as well from mediumship that the soul is always listening. In fact, when you take your last breath, the soul often, and we know with science that hearing is the last sense to go. So the soul can always hear you. And even after it takes its last breath, even when it doesn't have ears, it can feel what you're saying. It knows what you're saying. And we've had time and time again in mediumship, again, proven, I heard what you said. Here's the things that I noticed you said. I noticed that you sent a flower down into my casket. You put a note in there. Here's the note, what it said. Like, it's wild how much has come out in mediumship readings that show that the spirit was present after it passed away, technically took its last breath, right? So that energy field that is us, that energy is the storehouse of all of our emotions, experiences, relationships with anyone who's ever come before us. So that energetic field is what I tap into as a medium, as a psychic. As a psychic medium, what I do is I blend my energy with other people. So as a psychic reading or an intuitive reading, I blend my energy with your auric field. Said another way, I plug into you and I see what comes up first. To make it super simple. But as I'm blending with you and I'm becoming aware of your energy, the first thing that I become aware of is usually the need of this person, right? Your need. What is it that you need to talk about? What is it that you need more clarity or help with, right? So it's your need becomes the first thing I become aware of. As I go deeper, I start to uncover what happened with that need. What's the background story? Where did this all come from? And what are patterns in your life are supporting this need or what this problem that you're having now in your life? And then as a grief counselor with a lot of psychology classes under my belt and coaching as well and all my training, I then can also help you understand why you are where you're at and what are the opportunities available to you. Now, as I'm tapping into that energy field, I can also see, feel, know, experience what you have been thinking about around that. So, if you have been thinking about taking a trip to Bali, then I might be like, oh, I feel like Bali is on the horizon. Are you thinking about going to Bali? And you might be like, oh my God, how did you know that? And I was like, because you've been thinking about it and it's floating around in your auric field. So, I became aware of that right away. Does that mean you're going to Bali? No. It just means that you've been thinking about it. So, a really good psychic will say, you have been thinking about going to Bali, right? A terrible psychic would say, you should go to Bali. I see you in Bali. You're definitely, excuse me, going to go to Bali. I got all excited there. And it's not true. That is not anyone's choice to make for you, right? You are an energetic being having this human experience. You have free will. It is one of the most powerful tools in your toolbox. You get to choose what you do and what you don't do. And if you ever go to a psychic or a medium or anyone that tells you, even a therapist, a psychologist that tells you, you must do this, you should do that, you should think about, that's a good one, but not, you are going to, this is going to happen for certain. No, no one knows for certain what is going to happen to you except you. Your choices dictate your future. Every choice you make is opening potentials and closing potentials to you, right? If you decide to go to, if you decided not to graduate high school, guess what's close to you? Going to university. You can't go to university anymore. And then there's a number of, not at that point anyways, right? You could go if you decide to go back and finish your high school, or you decide to go to college, get some equivalencies, and then come back to university. You can do that. But the choice to go to university right from high school, having dropped out, is not available to you, right? That's a very simple experience, a simple explanation of every choice you make opens potentials and closes potentials to you, right? So it's the same thing in your life. Every choice you're making is creating momentum in your life. And I actually say that to all of my clients that come for a reading or come into session with me, that I'm not in charge of your future. You are. Every choice you make is creating momentum. You are already in momentum in your life. And as a psychic, I just get to see what that momentum is taking you towards. Now, if life and your soul wants to take you in a different direction than the way you've been going, you will start to see red flag after red flag after red flag. And here's what a red flag looks like, right? I'll give you an experience from my own life. I was working for a great company for a number of years, and my job at that time was a sales rep in the food industry. But previous to that, I was a purchasing manager and I'd been in purchasing in food service, and I wanted to get back into purchasing. And my goal was to retire the VP of purchasing for some big company with a big fat pension, shares in a company. I had earned my way up the ladder, right? So I had taken the sales job because my kids were young. I got the flexibility of working from home, creating my own schedule. It was lovely. The company was great. The bosses that I've had up till that point were wonderful. And so I started applying for purchasing positions, right? And again, I think I told the story in my opening in one of the previous episodes, but I applied for jobs. I was getting interviews. I would go to the fourth, fifth interview. Everyone had green-lighted me. And then at the last second, they'd be like, they went with somebody else with less credentials than me. And it would just never work out in my favor. And I was like, what is happening? Why am I not getting this? And I thought maybe I'll go back to school and get my PMAC designation, which is my purchasing. It would be a purchasing designation. I have a business degree, so that would have been easy. I had all the similar courses. I just had to do like five or eight courses that I could easily do and get my designation. And I applied for my transcripts. The university lost them. Then the university couldn't find them. Then I went down myself as opposed to doing it online or doing it over the phone. And that day that I went down myself, the computer system was down at the university. I was like, what are the chances? Finally, I get my transcripts. I send it in to the board, the company who does this designation. Lost in the mail. Did it again. They said I'd missed the deadline. And then finally, because the deadline had gone, they had changed the designation requirements. And now I needed to do double the work. And I was like, what is happening right now? I am getting thwarted at every turn. And I realized these were all red flags that this is not where I'm supposed to go. This is the universe diverting me to a different direction. But I wasn't listening, right? I am very I'm going to say stubborn might be one of the words, but I would say steadfast and focused on my goals. And I realized after one of the interviews did not go, I mean, I'd gotten to the fourth interview. I finally heard back from the director of HR that said, I'm so sorry, Sheetal, we gave the job to someone else. And, you were our pick. And unfortunately, the owner went with a different person. I don't know what to tell you. And I remember hanging up the phone and crying. I was standing outside a hotel because I was there for a food show in Jasper. And I just stood outside and I was crying. And I looked up at the sky and I went, why is this happening? And I heard Spirit say, because you're not meant to go there. I went, okay. And then I started to see this flash. I'm very clairvoyant. And I saw this flash of doors closing. And then I saw the one open door. And I almost I saw myself peering into the door and I saw my mediumship teacher. And I'm like, of course, that is where I'm supposed to go. Every time I went down the path of mediumship, intuition development, doing the astrology, anything that I was developing my spiritual talents and purposeful talents, everything, green lights, right? Everything was opening. People were coming to me and saying, I need to pay you. And I'm like, I'm not doing readings yet. And they're like, I don't care. I need you to read for me. I'm like, okay, how much should I charge? I don't even know. And it would just work out. And then they would refer people to me. And just all these avenues opened up without me trying. Right. And so I notice when people come to see me, they're usually stuck because either they don't see the open door or they've been trying to open the closed door. Right. And so I like to give perspective. That's all I do. As a psychic, I'm blending with your energy and I'm letting you know this is what I'm seeing. These are the potentials. And I'm feeling like here's why you're here. And I really just ask my clients to say yes or no. That's it. Don't give me any information. As we get through the session, maybe halfway through, then I like to have, if they want to ask for something or they want to give more information about something, then it starts to move into counseling or therapy kind of thing, which I don't mind, right? I actually love combining all my gifts during my sessions. One of my most favorite sessions to do is called a Sheetal's Choice. I get to use all of my gifts based on what I feel your need is and where we can go to help you. I can help you the most with that. So psychics don't tell you the future. You're creating your future, right? If I can see that you have a potential job opportunity coming up, but you don't go for the interview, what's going to happen there, right? Like I can't say you're for sure going to get the job and you're like, I'm good. I'm just going to stay home. She tells that I'm going to get the job. And then you don't go. And of course you're not going to get the job if you don't do it, right? You have agency in your life. Please do not let anyone take away that agency by saying you can't do, or this isn't for you, or I see you doing this thing. All right. I just had a reading literally this afternoon, an astrology reading. And astrology is a lovely tool to use. I'll do another podcast on astrology, but basically it's a snapshot of the stars, gives you a bit of a blueprint of it does give you a blueprint of the energy that creates your frequency in this lifetime. And as that frequency moves through the world, we can see what years are going to be helpful, what years are going to highlight different parts of your life. And so this client that I had just read for astrology, and I said, oh, is this highlighting you going back to school, doing something maybe with counseling? And she's like, oh, I have a bit of a fear with counseling, but what I really love is a home design, interior design. And I went, oh, yes, that makes sense as well. And here's the parts of the chart that support that, right? As a astrologer, astrology is consultative. So there's a conversation that goes back and forth, and we start to kind of talk about what's happening in your life. What are the gifts and talents and traits there? Psychic reading is purely, I'm talking, you're saying yes or no, right? There's a difference there. It's not consultative. You're not telling me all the things and I'm giving you my opinion, right? I think that's one of the things why people love psychic reading so much, is because I'm a completely neutral third party, right? I don't care what you do. I really don't. I'm unattached to your outcomes. I'm unattached to your stories. I'm here to tell you what I am feeling from your soul level and what are the potentials for you, right? So I don't know. I feel like that might burst some bubbles out there, because this is not about, I know better than you. I can see your future. Now, there are things that have happened in the past with readings where I can see a momentum for you that you were not able to see. So, for an example, I had a client who was very unhappy in her life. I did a tarot reading for her. I said, ooh, you're about to change jobs, not of your own design. And she's like, what does that mean? I said, you're about to get laid off. And in the next 6 months, it's imminent. Like, I can see it in the cards. It's very significant. And I was even feeling it, like, you're about to get laid off. And she's like, no, Sheetal, I've been at this job for 8 years. I'm good. They love me. I'm like, they don't love you as much as you think you do. And I said, they think as much as you think they do. So I said, here's the thing, right? As a psychic, I want to leave you better off than I found you. So if I am full of BS and that's a lie, great, right? But if it's not, here's what I'd like you to do. If you feel comfortable doing so, I said, I want you to shore up your resume. I want you to get 3 references ready to go. And I want you to get on LinkedIn and update your profile and start to friend headhunters that are in your industry. And you're just protecting yourself in case something happens. And if nothing happens, great, you've got an updated resume. And if something happens, boom, you can go back into the workforce as fast as possible, because I know you need the money. She's like, Sheetal, I'm not going to be laid off. And I said, what's the harm in just doing it, right? And like, I don't even understand why you would pay me money to have a reading, but then not listen to anything I have to say. So sure enough, 6 months later, she was let go from her job. And what I started, I'm just going to go back a little bit. I said, the reason why you're going to be let go from your job is because you're not actually doing your soul's work. This is not where you're meant to be. And I said, and there's been red flag after red flag after red flag. I feel like your boss has changed. I feel like they changed your wage. I feel like they've rolled back some of the metrics. Like, there's just all these things have been happening and you've just not been paying attention or been trying to write it off. And she's like, those things did actually happen. And I said, but you think you need the paycheck, and it's going to take away the paycheck because you're not going to be there for long. So I said, why not just get ready? No. And she was unemployed for 9 months because she was so mad. She was so abandoned. She felt abandoned by her company, even though I had shown her that that possibility was very, very real. So I saw it in the cards. I felt it in her momentum, and the momentum was there because she was so unhappy in her job. The universe was trying to move her into something of more purpose. When I asked her, what is it that you actually would love to do? If you could get paid anything in the world, you could pay millions of dollars to do this thing, or same salary. I mean, that makes it a little easier. Same salary as what you're doing now. What would you want to do? Just dream. And she said, I'd like to be a personal trainer, but I can't make the money that I'm making now from being a personal trainer. I'm like, have you heard of some of these big name trainers in Hollywood? Do you think they make more than you? She's like, well, I'm not a big name trainer in Hollywood. I said, no, but you can also innovate, right? Have you heard of Beachbody? Like, the guy who started Beachbody is a bazillionaire now. Like, there's lots of ways to make money from what you want to do. You can actually make money from anything. And you can do it online. You can do it in person. If you think that you can't do what you want to do and make money at it, please give me a call, right? It's one of my gifts in human design is I can help you design a company, a line of work, a way to do things that actually starts to bring in money doing what you actually love. Because life is too short to be working at a job that you hate, doing things that suck the life out of you. Your soul came here with a purpose, passion, mission to do something in this lifetime. I 100% know that. And so it's one of the things I love to do in readings is to really see those soul qualities and talents and help you to live them, help you to bring them to the forefront and discover how you can either get work in that field or create your own company to do that for you, right? So you can be a trailblazer wherever you are if that's in your blood. And not everyone is created to be an entrepreneur. Like I 100% know that. I see that in charts. And we need people in jobs doing really important things too, right? Not everyone's meant to be an entrepreneur. So psychic doesn't see the future. You create the future, my friends. Don't let anyone ever take that free will from you and tell you what is certain, right? And I even had said with the lady who was going to lose her job, I said, I feel so strongly about it. And if I'm wrong, great, whatever, right? There's nothing wrong. You're going to keep your job. Everything's great. But if I'm right, get yourself ready. At the very least, just be prepared, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I almost had to plead with her and she wasn't really willing to listen. And that's a lesson for me. I just got to give the message and release it. But I was so certain this was going to happen. And it did, right? It was in her momentum. I could feel that. So trust yourself above all else. If you want to see a psychic, see a good psychic that's going to show you potentials, tap into what your need is, and help you to illuminate things that maybe you haven't seen. A good coach can do that too. A good therapist can do that too. But I think in the psychic field, and I think this is something I feel very passionate about too, is people come to the psychics, the spiritual, the healers, because they feel either disillusioned with the therapists, the doctors, whatever that's out there. And the spiritual world feels a little bit more magical, maybe. And I think there's also hope that comes with people who come to the spiritual world for support. So I am happy to support that. I bring a lot of ethics and grounded practical knowledge and potentials and like things that they can do to move forward in their life and why they're blocking themselves from moving forward as well. Can often see that as well. So I love that. I love what I do as a psychic medium grief support counseling coach. It's not just a psychic medium, not to say that there's anything wrong with just being a psychic medium, but psychics don't tell the future. You do. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legalese that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.